Apropos of ballrooms, this beautiful scenery behind me from the Metropolitan Opera, and of the tango, which you would have found in a ballroom like this in Argentina, I just feel immensely privileged to be able to play for you in front of this scenery. This backdrop is at least from 1928 or earlier, and in that decade, the contracts between a scenic artist and an opera company would have been quite simple compared to the contracts of today. Consequently, a scenic artist would have understood that the imagery being created for the opera company was the property of the opera company to do with pretty much as they pleased. So the scenery could be sold off, someone else could use it, and the artist was not going to claim any royalties from the secondary use. Today, that's not the case. If the imagery and scenery from the Metropolitan Opera finds its way into any other form, a royalty would be due to the scenic artist, and it gets very complicated. But that's not the case of the 1920s. And so that's why today, if anybody tried to do what I'm able to do with this scenery, they would have a very complicated situation of contractual obligations. So I'm very fortunate to be able to display, to document, and to play in front of this scenery from the old Metropolitan Opera House. I've brought you some dancers of the Argentine tango to demonstrate the tango to my habanera and my Xavier Cugat style tango. And we'll do it for you in a ballroom from the Metropolitan Opera. This scenic backdrop behind me is of a ballroom in a Biedermeier style and would have been used for the opera Die Fledermaus and other operas that could have taken place in Eastern Europe or Russia following the Biedermeier period. The provenance of this backdrop, to put it in the parlance of auction houses, this would be an attributed to, in other words, a backdrop attributed to the Metropolitan Opera. There's good reason to believe that this drop originates from the Metropolitan Opera House, but I don't have the definite proof of that. Whereas I do have proof in the case of other backdrops in my possession that are definitely from the Metropolitan Opera House. But the, as they call it, provenance, the origin of this drop, has enough clues that it can be attributed to the Metropolitan Opera. Among those clues are, first of all, it was with the other drops that are definitely from the Metropolitan Opera House. Its provenance parallels those other drops exactly. It originates its whole course of origination from the 1920s, which is the decade in which this drop was created, its whole history parallels the drops that I know are from the Metropolitan Opera House.